Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Military Spouse to Millionaire. Expectation management is a monumentally huge part of what I do, not just helping people with their move here as far as like the PCS stuff, but let's be so for real, adjusting to the differences between mainland houses and Hawaii houses. That's a process. That's why I like to start talking to people months before they get here so that we have time to boil and adjust to all of the different factors and things with regard to the Hawaii market. So, today we are going to be talking about parking, which I know doesn't seem like it should be a big enough topic to make an entire podcast episode out of, but it is, in fact. So, let's start off with fun fact number one. There are not a ton of driveways here in Hawaii. Let me break this down for you so you kind of understand where this tangent is coming from. I was talking to somebody the other day and they wanted a 2-car garage and their budget allowed for that. Not a big deal. We're seeing houses, we're this, we're that. At some point during this process, somebody, the husband, the wife, somebody had mentioned something about woodworking equipment and home gym and needing stuff for storage. And I'm hearing all of this and I'm like, their family needs all of these bedrooms that they're looking at. Is a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath property here in Eva with a garage. And I'm like, where are you guys going to do the woodworking? And where's the home gym going to be? And where's all this storage going to be? And they're like, oh, in the garage. And immediately I said to them, well, where are you going to park? And their faces absolutely, they were just dumbfounded. They were like, oh my God, there's no driveway. And they're like, well, we'll just park in these parking spots that we parked in to see the unit. They were talking about the guest parking, which I then had to tell them that you cannot park overnight in guest parking in Hawaii unless you have a special placard from the association that allows you to park there. So if you have company who comes and they rent a car, don't panic. A certain number of days a year, you can get a little guest placard that allows your friends and family to park in guest parking overnight. But as a general rule, nowhere on the island can you overnight park in guest parking. You will get towed. Tow trucks come out at like 1 a.m. and will actively drive around neighborhoods looking for people who are parked in guest parking. So this family just had this very real like aha moment. And this is a conversation that I do ultimately have with a lot of people because I think coming from the mainland, like in Colorado, as an example, every house that we owned in Colorado has a driveway. Like it's just like a common thing. And so I want to just highlight to all of you out there who are moving here, you need to know that driveways are not super common here. If you have need of a 2-car garage, it needs to be stuff that can be moved or repositioned to allow you to park your cars. Now, if you only have 1 car and you get a 2-car garage, sure, make the other half a woodworking section, a gym. Like half of my garage is a gym, but I have a driveway. This is the only house we've owned. We've been here 8 years, 5 properties. This is the only one that we've had with a driveway. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's like a space thing. They didn't make driveways because they wanted to make more houses or more yard space. I don't have a rhyme or reason for why it's not super common here to have a driveway. But you need to know that it's not super common. And there's not always street parking nearby. And if you're limiting your home search to only places that have garages and nearby street parking, they're out there, but it's going to just be a limiting factor. So that will be a conversation that we want to have during our discussions if that's a priority for you. Now, that being said, that's if you can get a house with a garage. I would say largely speaking, Eva Beach Kapolei is, I'm not going to say the only place because you can go out to like Waianae, Sea Country. You can find homes with garages out there. But Eva Beach Kapolei, as far as like where I do the majority of my business, Pearl City, Aiea, Salt Lake, if you see a place that is marked having a garage in those places, it's more than likely a parking garage, like a parking structure. They're not going to have a lot of just garages. Same thing over on the east side, Kaneohe, Kailua. You can buy a $2 million house in Kailua, and that shit's going to have a carport. It's not even always going to have a proper garage. Not to say they don't exist, but they are not as common here as on the mainland. And so we just don't want to take that for granted. We want to understand that, home styles are different here. And we don't get inclement weather. You're not putting your car in the garage to stop it from, icing over or getting hailed on or getting snowed on. Like, we don't have bad weather here. You're going to get some rain every now and then. It might be a little windy, but we don't have, I think, just the same need from a weather standpoint to have garages. That being said, that's if you can kind of afford a place with a garage. So the places that I was looking at recently with this family that had garages, we're sort of in like the, I would say, mid to high $600,000 price point. So that's kind of where you need to be. I would say $600,000 or more to even really see homes that have garage space. And if you do, just keep in mind that you need to be planning at least overnight to park your cars in the garage. Or if we find you a place with street parking, obviously you can street park. But there's not just like these magical places that you can park your cars, because again, space is a commodity here. Now let's talk about what is entirely more common, and that is covered and assigned parking. So it is way more normal if you're looking at townhouses, condos. You're going to have 1 to 2 assigned parking stalls typically. A lot of times one is covered, like with kind of like a carport situation or like an awning situation. One is uncovered. Sometimes they're both covered, sometimes they're both uncovered, but I would say generally if a place has 2 assigned parking spots, one is covered, one is uncovered. They are assigned to you. No one else can park there. If someone does park there, you can get them towed, like all of those things. That is far more common here than having a garage and having a garage with a driveway. That's like the goal. Like, that's the dream. If you can get a house here with a garage and a driveway, you're shopping in a certain price point. The next step down from that is just getting a garage, whether it's a 1-car garage, 2-car garage. But keep in mind, you do have to be able to park in the garage. You cannot just use it for storage or hobbies or a gym. And then what's like 100% super common, very normal, is to have 2 assigned parking spots. That's true in Eva Beach, Kapolei, Makakilo, Mililani for most of the time. Now, if we're in Mililani or we're in Pearl City, Aiea, Salt Lake, downtown, sometimes Kaneohe, Kailua, depending on the price point, you can find places that will only have 1 assigned parking spot. Those price points typically lend themselves to single service members, so not as big of a deal because if you're a single service member, odds are you only need 1 parking spot anyways. But I just wanted to break down kind of what's common and normal, what's out there but maybe at a higher price point, and then kind of what's the dream, which is the driveway with the garage. Although slightly overrated. Like, we have a driveway, we have a garage, half the garage is a gym. We have 3 people who live in my house who drive, and we are constantly having to like shuffle cars around based on like, oh, are you leaving first in the morning? Am I leaving first in the morning? Are you going to be home to move your car so I can get into the garage to charge it? Like, not to sound ungrateful, but it does come with a little bit of like judging to make that all work. Sometimes, because we have street parking in front of my house as well, sometimes I just park on the street because it is easier than trying to figure out like all of the parking stuff. But I am grateful to have a garage and a driveway, but sometimes street parking is easier. Like I said, street parking is a thing. You can find it. Neighborhoods have it. but there are also neighborhoods that don't have it. So we really want to make sure we pick and choose what we're prioritizing when it comes to your parking needs, and just knowing that you can't move here and buy a house with a 2-car garage and expect to not park in it. I think is just the biggest eye-opening thing for people. And just to understand that like garages aren't super common here all over the place. It's kind of like air conditioning, which maybe I should do a whole nother episode about air conditioning, because everyone comes here and is like shocked that not all the houses have central air conditioning. And that's very much the case. Like if you're in Eva, like the newer part of the island, sure, a lot of places do have central air conditioning. But again, if you're Pearl City, Aiea, Salt Lake, Mililani, up in Makakilo, and you're buying a $500,000-$600,000 townhouse or condo, honey, you are not getting central air conditioning. Just like you're not getting a garage with a lot of those places. It's just a difference in how the houses are here, what's normal for here. But I obviously really have built this whole business priding myself on educating people and managing their expectations when it comes to that. And I have had countless talks with people about the garage situation, about the parking situation, about what's normal for here. Something else worth mentioning here in Hawaii when it comes to parking spaces in general, even if you do get a place with a garage, I want you all to take a moment and really reflect on the type of vehicle that you're bringing to Hawaii. It's kind of like the couches, right? Like I'm always talking about people going out and buying like these 10-foot sectionals mere weeks before they come to Hawaii, and then being all like bent out of shape because their 10-foot sectional or their 8-foot dining table doesn't fit in their Hawaii home. If you have some big ass Texas approved diesel dually crazy truck, honey, that shit is not fitting in a Hawaii size garage. Garages, just like the houses here, are smaller. Now, that being said, I have a large SUV. Clayton used to have a Ford F-150 extended cab. It did not fit in one of our garages. It did fit in our second garage. So not all garages are created equal, and he had to back into the garage to get the bed of the truck to hang over like this lip that was in the garage. So it might be prudent if you have a large vehicle to bring it while we're house hunting, or at least have the measurements like length and width of the vehicle that maybe we can measure while we're in the space. Or if you think my car is similar size, I'm happy to pull into a garage. But do be mindful, just like everything else that you're bringing to Hawaii, be mindful of the size vehicles that you're coming here with. Because if there's no street parking, and if you don't have a driveway, but you have some crazy, stupid big truck, you do kind of have to think about where to park that. Parking spots are smaller here, and that is true of on-post housing, rentals, purchasing. Like that's not a buying specific, issue. We're on an island, you guys. Space is a commodity. You need to keep that in the forefront of your mind. Things here are not as large. The houses aren't as large. The parking spaces aren't as large. The garage isn't as large. Downsize. Think smaller. Now, obviously, I'm not expecting you to go run out and like sell your family vehicle, but these are just things that we need to, have a dialogue about, talk about, have on our radar, do the appropriate things to make sure that those checks are made when we're looking at properties. So I just thought it was worth it. Even though this is a little bit of a shorter episode, I do think it's worth it to sort of put this information out there so that as we get on the phone and you get my PCS packet and we start having conversations, you're a little bit more ahead of the game and you can know ahead of time, okay, if a garage is really important, you in the back of your mind need to understand that's probably looking like the $600,000-ish price point. And when we have our call and we talk, we can obviously assess if your entitlements, can get you to that price point so you can see a few houses. Not to say that there's not some in the $500,000 price point, but I'm talking like norms here, right? Like what's typical. So this is where talking to me on the phone, having a conversation, telling me what you're trying to prioritize, us talking about budget really all comes into play and is so super important. And this is part of the reason that people who are just out there on their own in the wild on Zillow or Redfin or whatever, number one, you don't know what price point you should be shopping in. So you don't know what's truly available to you, but also you don't know what's common or normal or acceptable for Hawaii. And that's why I'm here. So don't hesitate to reach out. This was a short one, but I just feel like it was a topic of conversation that I had to tackle. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. I wouldn't have any of this if it weren't for all of you. Bye, guys.